Three defensemen, one season, a roller coaster of minutes, mistakes, and moments as our season grades continue on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer 105 through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Some of my harshest grades of the 2024-25 season are in today's episode as we look at Matt Dumba, Ilya Lyubushkin, and Cody Ceci, the misfits on the Dallas Stars blue line, I suppose. And I decided to lump these three together because I feel like they all fall into a similar category for Dallas Stars fans. So we're going to analyze a 2024-25 campaign for Dumba, Lyubushkin, and Ceci. Let me know your letter grades in the comments below. Also, hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL, monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. This will be the second last episode of our season grades here on Locked On Stars. We'll finish up with Bichel, Lundqvist, and Petrovic either tomorrow or in a few days, and then we'll be done with our season grades. These have been a lot of fun. I appreciate those of you that are following along. Be sure to check out some of my earlier episodes. We went through the forwards first, and now we're wrapping up the blue liners. We'll start today with Matt Dumba, who was acquired almost a year ago at this time. July 1st, he was acquired by the Dallas Stars, a 2-year, $3.75 million cap hit. The Stars certainly paid the righty tax on Matt Dumba, and they were hoping for him to re-find his game from a few years ago when he was with the Minnesota Wild, and he showed some offensive flashes. 50 points with the Minnesota Wild in 2017-18. He had jumped around the previous few years with Arizona and Tampa Bay, and he just wasn't quite himself once again this season in Dallas. He really never refound his game. Played in 63 games, had a goal, 9 assists, and 10 points, but unfortunately did not make a single appearance in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think that went back to a lot of my concerns on July 1st when the Stars signed Matt Dumba. Are these the moves that are going to get you over the hump? And can he play in some high leverage situations? And also, I'll defend Dumba to some degree because the Stars were not playing him in a role that I thought he could be successful in. And once again, he had to play in some of these high leverage moments. And he had 60 penalty minutes this past season in 63 games. That was second on the Dallas Stars. We knew that kind of came with the package, so to speak. Really, everywhere he's been, he's taken a lot of penalty minutes. He's physical, right? He was supposed to bring this physical element to the Dallas Stars that Dallas was missing on the blue line. And as I said multiple times, I don't think it comes in a package like Matt Dumba, but that's what we were looking for. He had a total of 70 hits this past season because this is what we were expecting out of Matt Dumba. That was the fourth least of his career. And in 2018-19, when he played 32 games, he had 60 hits. So he played above 60 games, had 70 hits. It was the fourth least of his career. So not very good in that category, if that's what he was supposed to bring. He played with Miro Heiskanen a bit. I was actually pretty intrigued and hoping it was going to work out because it allowed Miro to play on his strong side, but you're also asking him to play top pairing minutes, which at this point in his career, his best days are behind him. That's not where he is going to succeed. About 25 games in, that experiment stopped, and then he was moved up and down the lineup. And I also don't think he had a terrible regular season. Was it great? No. He was a -5 on the year, which was second worst among D-man. He was only better than Brendan Smith. He also had 62 giveaways, which was the most of his career, and pretty astounding numbers as well. 62 this past season was the most of his career. And of course, that stems from just his lack of puck moving ability. At this point in his career, he's not the player he once was, and he really, really struggled to just move the puck up the ice. And we saw that throughout the season, and then eventually led to him being a healthy scratch during all 18 games of the Stanley Cup playoffs, which was a bit of a gut punch. And once again, you're paying Matt Dumba $3.75 million, and you're replacing him with Alex Petrovic, who played the entire season in the AHL, and you're more comfortable with him over Matt Dumba during the Stanley Cup playoffs. And once again, it goes back to the decision why you decided to even sign Matt Dumba a year ago. And I know you need bodies. You need some guys to eat up some minutes. This past season, he played 881 minutes, which is about middle of the pack in his career. You look at his total minutes, it was about fourth least. If you include some of the PK numbers as well. He did have a stretch where he started to pick up some assists in the middle of the season. I thought about December to January, even into February a bit, we sort of got the best version of Matt Dumba. Thought he had a bit of a slow start. Then he started to pick it up. You can live with some of the penalty minutes. I think he's one of the few guys that would stand up for some others too. If Rope Hintz took a cheap shot, let's just say in the Western Conference Final, I think if Matt Dumba was on the ice, he would take exception to that. And maybe they did need Dumba to maybe have that presence or just that ability to stick up for others. And I'll applaud him for that. He played with Liam Bichsel quite a bit during the end of kind of the season when Bichsel got called up. He played with him, and I thought he was a rather decent partner, just a veteran that stuck up for Bichsel and stuck up for the young rookie. And I think you have to acknowledge that and acknowledge some of the good things that Dumba did. And maybe didn't contribute to winning all the time. And maybe it wasn't his individual play, but I think as a locker room presence and just maybe a veteran, I think he could do worse than Matt Dumba. He's not worth the $3.75 million you're paying him. Don't get it wrong. But for what I think he could provide for some of the younger defensemen, and you never heard him complain. There was no noise coming from him when he was a healthy scratch or when he wasn't playing. And I think you have to acknowledge and applaud Dumba for just being a true professional throughout the year, despite maybe having a rough year as just a player. You can look at some of his overall numbers, advanced numbers. It's, nothing spectacular. Hockey stat cards, his offensive rating was minus 1.3. His defensive rating, minus 7.3. His expected goals against 41.05, which was, of course, not very good. And he was playing with different partners throughout the year. We saw him with Harley a bit. We saw him with Heiskanen. Saw him with Lyubushkin, or maybe not Lyubushkin, Bichsel, as I mentioned. He just kind of hopped around, but not a strong season for Matt Dumba. And I gave him a D. I have a D for Dumba, which is by far the lowest letter grade I have given to a Dallas Stars player for this past season. But him just being a healthy scratch in the playoffs, I don't think I can go above that. Because for what the Stars were asking him to be, and let's face it, they were hoping him to be, and we have to take Jim Nill's word for it. Like, they were pretty happy with what they did last summer with Lyubushkin and Dumba, and they were thinking he could refine his game if that was the expectation. Well, that didn't happen, and I think my grade needs to reflect that. So I give Dumba a D for this past season. And again, I was a defender of him at points. I didn't think he was that bad, but when it came down to it, they're playing him in, top 4 roles for a chunk of the season. It wasn't great. Eventually they kind of moved him back. He played with Lundqvist quite a bit too. And that sort of became a pair until Lundqvist, of course, ended his season with an injury, and that was sort of just an experiment too, but just never really quite worked out. So a D for Matt Dumba. Let's go to his other partner that was acquired on July 1st, Ilya Lyubushkin, who out of these three, I think, has probably the highest defenders or maybe the most praise from Stars fans. I'll give Lyubushkin's letter grade in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Takeout, subscriptions, it can really add up. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's that personal CFO that can find some areas where you can lay back and save some more. And having everything in one app makes it so much easier to manage your money day to day, especially if you're with your partner. It allows you to track shared and personal accounts, and then boom, you can be on the same track to reach your financial goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. Ilia Lyubushkin, out of the three defensemen we're analyzing today, probably will have the highest praise from Stars fans. I would assume, could be wrong on that, but he was pretty reliable throughout the season. He played in 80 games. He had a goal of 13 assists for 14 points. In 14 playoff games, he had 0 goals, 3 assists, and 3 points. And if you look at Lyubushkin's just surface level numbers throughout this 24-25 campaign, it was one of his best years of his career. But I think at the end of the day, his minutes really caught up to him. He played the most amount of minutes of his career this past season with the Dallas Stars. And I think just those minutes in general started to catch up to him. So 1,300 minutes, it was 1,390, which is the most amount of his career. He averaged 17 minutes and 23 seconds a night. That was the second most of his career. His plus minus was a +5. That was a career high. And he had 13 even strength assists. So some of the surface level numbers, as I mentioned, I thought he succeeded. He had 146 total shot attempts. And look, this isn't a number that's going to jump out to you, but that was the most of his career. So I think for a large chunk of the year, he really did succeed. He played his most amount of minutes alongside Thomas Harley, which I'm sure really, really helped him, was probably a reason he had. I mean, probably not. It was probably the predominant reason he had one of the best years of his career. That was a pairing that played the most amount of minutes with one another out of any other pairing with the Dallas Stars. His goals for percentage was 50% at 5-on-5. If you look at some of his 5-on-5 numbers throughout the playoffs, they weren't glowing, but I think he started to struggle as the minutes started to really wear along. His expected goals against was 11.37. That was 7th on the Dallas Stars throughout the playoffs. And once again, he was a healthy scratch for the most important stretch of the season in that Western Conference Finals. Expected goals for percentage was 16th. 44% alongside Esa Lindell and Cody Ceci. You'll learn that just Ceci and Lindell were just an awful pairing here. And we'll get to Ceci and why that pairing was just so bad for the Dallas Stars. And I just think as the minutes started to pile up, and then when you get to the Stanley Cup playoffs, then it's some really heavy, high leverage minutes, especially when he's playing mostly alongside Thomas Harley. I think it just became really, really hard for Lyubushkin to just be successful and continue to play consistently and play well, because I thought for a large chunk of the regular season. I really enjoyed Lyubushkin. I really did. I thought he was good for what the Stars needed him to be, and it was just a solid enough partner for Harley. He was on the penalty kill. He played the second most penalty kill minutes this past season. Him and Lindell were just kind of the shutdown pairing that the Stars trotted out. 188 minutes, 57 seconds on the PK. 84 hits, was third on the Dallas Stars. He brought a level of physicality to the Stars blue line, but 109 giveaways, the most of his career. And I mean a staggering amount. 109 giveaways. His second most up to that point, or his previous career high, was 40 back in 23-24. And maybe some of that came with he was just playing with the puck more often because he was playing alongside Thomas Harley. But that is a pretty alarming number when you look at 109 giveaways. His previous career high was 40. So once again, it sort of feeds into some of your concerns or weaknesses that we talked about with Dumba, just when it came to his overall defensive work in his defensive zone, and ability for the Stars to just move pucks up to their forwards. He struggled in that area. Had a strong defensive rating, though, plus 0.2 via hockey stat cards. His offensive rating was minus 3.0. His expected goals against 52.09. That was, kind of in the 10th percentile. But it was a really strong penalty killer for the Stars this past season. And as I mentioned, he ate up a lot of minutes there. And then again, you look at some of his surface level numbers, one of the best years of his career, played the most amount of games, which is good. And I think he fought through some injuries too. He missed a couple of games. I think he missed a game in January and then a game a bit later on. He took a beating at some points. I know he was dealing with a shoulder injury, and again, was one of these guys that I think played in a situation that was not going to allow him to be as successful as we were hoping for. Again, I think the best situation for Lyubushkin is he's your sixth defenseman, maybe fifth, because that's just what he is at this point in his career. And he'll be 31 next season. He signed a 3-year, $3.25 million. Was he overpaid? Yes. Once again, he sort of falls into that same category as Matt Dumba, but he was able to at least be available, or at least gain the trust of the coaching staff to play him in the Stanley Cup playoffs for 14 games. But at the end of the day, he ended up being another healthy scratch like Dumba in the Western Conference Final. It's just not very, I guess the word would be not very rewarding, to say the least. And I give him a C+ for this past season. I give him a C+. I feel like it had to be better than Dumba. I thought he had a really decent season in a lot of ways. I think I was a defender of Lyubushkin during stretches of this past year, but when it came down to it, you weren't able to utilize him. And I think that's very telling of the front office, and is the reason why the Stars this year, let's just put it frankly, are unable to really do anything to retool the blue line because of their cap situation. And this goes back to last year when I was obviously not very thrilled with the signings of Dumba and Lyubushkin on July 1. And you get comments, well, who cares? This adds the physicality, and it's just, 3 point, whatever $1 million. It's not a big deal. Well, it is, because now the Stars have their hands tied and they now cannot get rid of these contracts. And both of these guys, Lyubushkin and Dumba, are two of the guys that Stars fans are asking for the Stars to try to get rid of so they can find some cap space, and they're unable to do that. So, C+ for Ilia Lyubushkin for the 24-25 campaign. Now, let's go to Cody Ceci, who, of course, got paid again this past summer. Thankfully, not by the Dallas Stars, but really, what a roller coaster for Cody Ceci. played for a couple teams. Stars acquired him. Let's go ahead and break down his 24-25 season in just a moment. Things just continued to get worse with Cody Ceci as the season wore along after the Stars acquired him on February 1st from the San Jose Sharks. And probably the worst decision now looking back at it by the Stars was pairing him up alongside Esa Lindell. And that pairing just got absolutely torched during the Stanley Cup playoffs. But Ceci played a total of 85 games this past season between the Sharks and the Dallas Stars. 54 with the Sharks, 31 for the Stars, adding up to 85 games played. He had 4 goals. All 4 of those came with San Jose, 9 assists, and 9 points. Or pardon me, he had 20 assists for a total of 20? It would have been 24 points. He played in 18 playoff games. He had 0 goals, 3 assists, and 3 points. I wrote here as a dash mark, as a bullet point, just not very good. I think that probably sums up what we got from Cody Ceci. And again, for what Ceci was, I think Dumba, Lyubushkin, and Ceci all fall in the same category. They were okay for what they were. They just were not going to really add any sort of production towards winning for the Dallas Stars in a lot of ways. And that may feel harsh and may sound harsh, but we just have to call it like it is, Stars fans. These just 3 defensemen and Ceci can add on to it. Just really not great at all. And you go through all the numbers at 5-on-5, all situations. Ceci's not good. Expected goals against 17.28. That was the worst of any Dallas Star during the Stanley Cup playoffs. And really Lindell and Ceci, I mean, they're like 2 peas in a pod when you look at a lot of the advanced numbers. The goals for percentage, Lindell, the Ceci was 4th worst, 33%. He's with Duchesne and Ben, who we all know really struggled to find the back of the net. And when you look at, Ceci, Lindell, were kind of your shutdown pairing in some ways. You were asking them to play against outside of Harley Haskin, and maybe you're asking them to play against top 6 talent is what you're asking them to play against. And they just got torched. And Ceci is just the modern day defenseman that you cannot have at this point in the NHL. Just coughs up the puck a lot. He's not strong with the puck on his stick. His defensive rating was a minus 8.8. His expected goals against 80.75. That was like last in the NHL. I mean, like one of the worst expected goals against in the entire NHL. And we know what he's not adding to the team offensively. And again, he was playing over 20 minutes a night for the Dallas Stars. Not good at all. Playing over 20 minutes a night in high leverage situations. And you paired him with Esa Lindell, which I think just exacerbated his issues, his weaknesses, and Esa Lindell's. And it was just left much to be desired, to say the least. And look, he at least was there for the postseason. He was available. He played in 18 games. Probably would have rather had Lyubushkin over Ceci. But that's just a different conversation for a different day, and it wouldn't have made a difference in whether the Stars were getting through the Western Conference Final or not. But yeah, again, this is just a category of you just have these guys to have these guys, and they're really not going to be successful or contribute to you winning hockey games. And Alex Petrovic was a better option than really these 3 guys. Maybe outside of Lyubushkin, but Dumba and Ceci Petrovic was a better, and Bichel was, to be frank, as well. And I'll be a lot more excited to talk about Bichel and Lundqvist upcoming in our next episode of season grades, our final episode, because I just think there's a lot more positives with those three. And look, again, Ceci had some moments throughout this season. I think the intro of today's video, just moments, mistakes, and minutes. You're asking Ceci to play over 20 minutes a night. You're probably just not going to be very successful on the back end. And I think that really rang true this past season with the Dallas Stars. And I gave him a D+. I gave him a bit more than Dumba just because at least he played in the postseason. But I couldn't give him a grade above Lyubushkin. I didn't think he was worthy of that after what we saw for the most part this past season. And we only got him for a couple months. So he's gone now. And he got paid, $4.5 million or maybe it wasn't 4.5, it was $3.2 million. By the Los Angeles Kings, if I'm not mistaken. So the Kings have to deal with him now. Sorry, it was $4.5 million for the next 4 years for 31-year-old Cody Ceci. That actually is incredible. Thankfully, Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars did not come to terms with that. So there you go. That is it for the penultimate episode of Season Grades here on Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Would love your feedback on today's episode. Let me know your grades. Certainly the most harshest. Really, it's the only two players I've given failing grades to this past season with Dumba and Lyubushkin. And a failing grade for me was a D. Back when I was in school, we didn't really have the letter grades. It was like 70% or below was failing. And maybe that wasn't failing in other places, but 70% or below was kind of like failing. So a D would be a failing grade. Maybe I should have give Dumba F. Maybe it wasn't harsh enough. I'm sure some of you will have harsher grades than maybe even I had on today's show. But that's going to do it. I want to thank you for the love and support. As always, I'm going to have to make up for some of the episodes I missed. We're going to get some guests on here in the next coming weeks. I know some news is going to start slowing down, so we're not going to have a ton of things to talk about. We're going to have to get creative, have some fun. Maybe if you have some video ideas, we'd love to hear that as well. Ask for some of those if you're interested in me doing a topic or doing a certain segment on something. Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see if we can get to some of those throughout the summer as we enter the dog days. But that will do it for today's episode. I want to thank you as always. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, Stars fans, and we'll see you tomorrow. So long.